Beneath the royal crown, a story of power, betrayal, and a struggle for survival unfolds. Queen Anne, often overshadowed by her predecessors, faced challenges that threatened the very core of her reign. Surrounded by scheming courtiers and battling her own frailties, her rule was far from ordinary. How did a seemingly fragile queen manage to hold a fractured nation together? What hidden forces shaped her decisions and determined her fate? The truth behind Queen Anne's reign is as complex as it is compelling. And it reveals a side of monarchy that history rarely tells. Queen Anne, the last Stuart monarch. Queen Anne, who reigned from 1702 to 1714, was the last monarch of the House of Stuart. Her time on the throne was marked by significant political and military events that shaped the future of Great Britain. Despite her numerous personal hardships, Anne played a crucial role in the evolution of the British monarchy and the consolidation of the United Kingdom. Her reign saw the union of England and Scotland, the War of the Spanish Succession, and substantial political change, all of which contributed to the modern British state. Early life and family background. Anne was born on February 6, 1665, at St. James's Palace in London. She was the second daughter of James, Duke of York, who later became King James II, and his first wife, Anne Hyde. The Stuart family was central to the political and religious turmoil of the time, with conflicts between Catholicism and Protestantism deeply influencing their lives. Anne's mother, Anne Hyde, was the daughter of Edward Hyde, 1st Earl of Clarendon, a key advisor to King Charles II. Her parents' marriage was somewhat controversial, as it was a love match rather than a politically advantageous union, which was unusual for royalty at the time. Anne's father, James, Duke of York, was a staunch Catholic, while her mother was a Protestant, which created tension in the royal family and foreshadowed the religious conflicts that would later dominate Anne's reign. Anne was raised in a Protestant household, but the influence of her father's Catholicism was always present. Her early life was marked by frequent moves and separations from her family due to the political instability of the time. When Anne was just 6 years old, her mother died, and she and her sister, Mary, were sent to France to live with their maternal grandmother, Henrietta Maria, the widow of King Charles I. During her time in France, Anne developed an eye condition that affected her vision for the rest of her life. A condition that caused her much discomfort and contributed to her overall poor health. When Anne returned to England, she was placed under the care of her uncle, King Charles II. Despite the family's Catholic connections, Anne was educated as a Protestant, a decision that would have significant implications for her future as queen. Marriage and family life. On July 28, 1683, Anne married Prince George of Denmark. The marriage was not a grand political alliance, but rather a union based on mutual affection. George was described as a kind and supportive husband, devoted to Anne throughout their marriage. While George was not a particularly dynamic figure, his loyalty and love for Anne provided her with a sense of stability in a life otherwise filled with turmoil. Anne and George's marriage was plagued by tragedy. Anne became pregnant 17 times over the course of their marriage. But most of the pregnancies ended in miscarriage, stillbirth, or the early death of their children. Only one child, Prince William, Duke of Gloucester, survived infancy, but he died at the age of 11 from what is believed to have been hydrocephalus, a condition characterized by an abnormal buildup of fluid in the brain. The loss of her children deeply affected Anne, contributing to her physical and emotional decline over the years. The death of Prince William in 1700 left Anne without a direct heir, a situation that added to the political instability of the time. The lack of a clear successor to the throne was a source of anxiety not only for Anne but also for the entire nation, as the question of succession was closely tied to the religious and political conflicts of the era. Ascension to the throne. Anne's path to the throne was shaped by the political and religious turmoil of her time. Her father, James II, was a Catholic, and his religious beliefs made him increasingly unpopular in Protestant England. The Glorious Revolution of 1688, which saw James II deposed in favor of Anne's sister, Mary, and her husband, William of Orange, was a turning point in British history. Mary and William ruled as joint monarchs, becoming William III and Mary II, and supported their reign. After Mary's death in 1694, William continued to rule alone until his death in 1702. With William's death, Anne became queen at the age of 37. Her coronation took place on April 23, 1702, at Westminster Abbey. Despite the grandeur of the occasion, Anne's health was already in decline. She suffered from a range of ailments, including gout and obesity, which limited her mobility and caused her significant pain. These physical challenges would plague her throughout her reign, but they did not diminish her determination to rule effectively. The War of the Spanish Succession. One of the most significant events during Anne's reign was the War of the Spanish Succession, which lasted from 1701 to 1714. The war was a major European conflict triggered by the death of Charles II of Spain, who left no direct heir. The question of who should succeed to the Spanish throne led to a power struggle between the major European powers, including France, Austria, and Britain. Britain's involvement in the war was largely driven by the Duke of Marlborough, Anne's most prominent military commander. Marlborough's campaigns were highly successful, securing important victories for Britain and its allies. His triumphs on the battlefield, particularly at the Battle of Blenheim in 1704, helped to establish Britain as a leading European power. The war, however, was costly both in terms of finances and lives. It drained the country's resources and led to significant political divisions at home. The Whigs, one of the two main political parties of the time, strongly supported the war, while the Tories, the other major party, were more inclined to seek peace. Anne, who personally favored the Tories, found herself caught between these two factions, trying to maintain a balance in her government. Despite the eventual success of the war, including the signing of the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, which ended the conflict and established a balance of power in Europe, the prolonged nature of the war and the heavy toll it took on the nation led to increasing dissatisfaction and political instability. The Act of Union. Another major event during Anne's reign was the Act of Union in 1707, which united the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of Scotland into a single political entity, the Kingdom of Great Britain. The union was the result of years of negotiation and was driven by political, economic, and security concerns. For England, the union was seen as a way to secure the Protestant succession and to strengthen the country against its European rivals. For Scotland, the union offered economic benefits and the promise of political stability. Anne was a strong supporter of the union, believing that it would bring greater security and prosperity to her kingdoms. The Act of Union was not without controversy, particularly in Scotland, where there was significant opposition to the idea of being ruled from London. However, the union was ultimately successful, and it created a unified kingdom that would go on to become a major global power. The Act of Union had a profound and lasting impact on the history of the British Isles. It marked the beginning of a new era in British history, one in which the nation would increasingly assert itself on the global stage. The Union also laid the groundwork for the future development of the British Empire, which would become the largest empire in history. Political challenges and personal relationships. Anne's reign was marked by intense political rivalries and personal challenges. The two main political parties, the Whigs and the Tories, were deeply divided on key issues, including the war and the succession. Anne's personal preferences leaned towards the Tories, but she had to navigate a delicate balance between the two parties to maintain her government. One of the most significant relationships in Anne's life was with Sarah Churchill, Duchess of Marlborough. Sarah was Anne's close friend and confidant, and she wielded considerable influence over the Queen. Their relationship, which began when they were young, was initially one of mutual affection and trust. Sarah, known for her strong will and assertiveness, often advised Anne on political matters and played a key role in the administration of the government. However, over time, the relationship between Anne and Sarah began to deteriorate. Sarah's domineering personality and her attempts to control Anne's decisions led to increasing tensions between the two women. Sarah's influence over and was resented by many, including the Tories, who saw her as a Whig sympathizer. As Anne's health declined and her political challenges grew, the rift between her and Sarah widened. The final break between Anne and Sarah came in 1711, when Anne dismissed Sarah from her court and replaced her with Abigail Masham, a cousin of Sarah's who had become one of Anne's new favorites. Abigail, who was more reserved and less politically active than Sarah, provided Anne with the companionship and support she needed without the added pressure of political interference. Anne's relationship with her ministers was also complicated. The Whigs and the Tories were constantly vying for power, and Anne had to manage these competing interests carefully. The political landscape of the time was volatile, with frequent changes in government and shifting alliances. Anne's efforts to maintain a stable government were often thwarted by the intense rivalry between the two parties. Despite these challenges, Anne was a shrewd and capable ruler who understood the importance of maintaining the balance of power in her kingdom. She was not a figurehead, she took an active role in governance and was deeply involved in the decision-making process. Her ability to navigate the complex political landscape of the time was a testament to her strength and determination as a ruler. Personal health and struggles. Throughout her life, Anne struggled with numerous health issues that affected her ability to rule. She suffered from chronic gout, a condition that caused severe pain and limited her mobility. Her obesity, which worsened over the years, further exacerbated her health problems. Anne's poor health often confined her to her bed, and she relied heavily on her ministers and advisors to carry out the day-to-day affairs of the kingdom. Despite her physical limitations, Anne remained committed to her duties as queen. She continued to attend council meetings and engage in the affairs of state, even when her health made it difficult for her to do so. Her determination to fulfill her responsibilities as monarch was a reflection of her deep sense of duty and her commitment to her country. Anne's personal life was marked by tragedy and loss. The deaths of her children and the breakdown of her relationship with Sarah Churchill took a heavy toll on her emotional well-being. She often found solace in her faith, and she was known for her devout religious practices. Anne's faith was a source of strength for her, and it played a significant role in her life and reign. Despite the many challenges she faced, Anne's reign was marked by significant achievements. The War of the Spanish Succession, the Act of Union, and the political changes of the time all contributed to the shaping of modern Britain. Anne's legacy as a ruler is one of resilience and determination in the face of adversity. The succession crisis and the end of Anne's reign. As Anne's health continued to decline, the question of succession became increasingly urgent. With no surviving children, Anne's death would mark the end of the Stuart line. The issue of succession was complicated by the religious divide in the country. The Act of Settlement, passed in 1701, had established that only a Protestant could inherit the throne, excluding Anne's Catholic relatives from the line of succession. The Act of Settlement designated Sophia of Hanover, a granddaughter of James I, as the next in line to the throne. However, Sophia died shortly before Anne, and the succession passed to her son, George of Hanover. Anne was not enthusiastic about the Hanoverian succession, but she had little choice in the matter. The political and religious realities of the time made it clear that a Protestant succession was necessary to maintain stability in the kingdom. Anne's final years were marked by increasing physical and emotional decline. She suffered from a series of strokes that left her incapacitated, and her health continued to deteriorate. Despite her frailty, Anne remained mentally sharp, and she continued to engage in the affairs of state until the very end of her life. Queen Anne died on August 1, 1714, at the age of 49. Her death marked the end of the Stuart dynasty, and the throne passed to George I of the House of Hanover. The transition to the Hanoverian dynasty marked a new chapter in British history, one that would see the continued growth and development of the British state. Legacy. Queen Anne's legacy is a complex one. She was not a dynamic or charismatic ruler, but she was a steady and determined monarch who navigated her country through a period of significant change. Her reign saw the consolidation of the United Kingdom, the expansion of British influence in Europe, and the development of the modern British state. Anne's personal struggles, including her health issues and the loss of her children, humanize her and make her a sympathetic figure in history. Despite the many challenges she faced, Anne remained committed to her duties as queen and worked tirelessly to maintain the stability and security of her kingdom. The political and military achievements of Anne's reign, particularly the Act of Union and the War of the Spanish Succession, had a lasting impact on the history of Britain and Europe. The Union of England and Scotland laid the foundation for the future development of the United Kingdom, while the successes of the War of the Spanish Succession established Britain as a major European power. Anne's reign also marked the end of the Stuart dynasty, a family that had been at the center of British politics for over a century. The transition to the Hanoverian dynasty brought new challenges and opportunities for the British monarchy, but it was Anne's reign that laid the groundwork for the future development of the British state. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the life of Queen Anne, make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories from history. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Queen Anne and her reign. Leave a comment below. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.